You want to say hello? Is that what's happening? Hi, everyone. Good morning. This little one was at the door and she was meowing, and I think it's because she wanted to be a part of our transmission today. How are you? Good morning. It's so great to see that everyone's saying, saying hello in the chat. Oh man, Sophia is just giving out the love this morning. You want to say hi to everyone? Say good morning. Oh, oh, so, oh, beautiful. Dawn's sharing today is Happy International Women's Day to all of us. I love that. Welcome, Dawn. Hi, Muriel. Good morning, Pam. Hi, Amanda. Good morning, Rose. So, yes, today we're going to be focusing on a Hathor passage from the Sophia Code. Okay, Sophia's done. Cat hair everywhere. I don't know what Sophia got into, but I've got dirt all over my jeans now. So, we're going to read from Hathor's chapter today. This week, we're focusing on creativity and communication, and with Isis and Hathor. Okay, cat hair in my mouth. And I think this is an important passage for these times that we're living in, where I think, and I know, and I feel how easy it is to look at the times we're living in and to feel so overwhelmed by these global economic battles that are really masking a spiritual battle for the heart of humanity. And, people are dying, people are, they're being challenged, and all over the world, their freedoms are being challenged, their liberties, their well-being, their livelihood. And this is happening all over the world to varying degrees. And it's important to understand that these pivotal times, these extreme times, the intensity of these times it's ramping up because humanity there's a very powerful cross-section of humanity that is doing everything in its power to wake up from the nightmare of duality right now, and to step into the wholeness and the empowerment of their sovereign divinity, whether or not they know that consciously or in those exact words. That's not the point. There is a collective magnetism and desire to discover the divinity within us. And as we reach closer into our own light, and as humanity as a whole continues to dip its toes in the idea that maybe the past couple thousand years of programming isn't in its best interest, and it's time to resource a higher perspective about itself, the darkness has increased its efforts to confuse us, to scatter us, to disassociate us from the truth of who we really are. So there's never been a more important time to understand how multidimensional you are. Because when you tap into, and this is a big part of what happens in the Hathor chapter of the Sophia Code, Hathor is inviting you into a limitless, an unlimited understanding about how vast your soul is. Because if you can understand and tap into how vast your soul is, the next parallel that she makes the bridge to is then you can understand how the depth of how much you can create in this world. Because your multidimensional soul can be pulling from every other dimensional reality into this world. So when you are in the journey of embodying your higher self, tapping into the creative power of your own soul and the creative solutions that arise from your direct connection to the source, and you bring that energy and that consciousness into your physical body, into your daily life, you're commanding miracles. You are going against the grain, against the matrix. You're in a radical act of spiritual revolution. So when we tap into our divine nature, we're tapping into this invincible creative light within us that can birth an entirely new paradigm. It's why we created the Hathor Visslet to say divine birth, or it's hard to read in this light, but of a sovereign paradigm, because that's what your divinity is up to here. You are boots on the ground, anchoring the Christ light, the Buddha light of awakened consciousness for so many other human beings that are struggling to move beyond their own trauma, their own wounding, and to step into the creative genius of their own soul and the refuge and sanctuary of the peace of their own soul that came here to do something wonderful in this lifetime. Something that helps birth goodness into this world and moves us out of this constant dualistic battle with destruction. The only thing that needs to be destroyed now is everything that's holding us back. And so when we meet Hathor as a spiritual guide of creativity and communication in the Sophia Code, we are meeting a mentor who is holding up such a powerful mirror for our awareness to be awakened by, that very often people run for the hills with Hathor because they can barely tolerate the mirror that Isis raises up for them. So when Hathor is mirroring back to you just how powerful, radiant, beautiful, creative, joyful your soul is, it's unbearable for most people based on how much they are recovering from trauma, from programmed belief systems, from low self-esteem, low self-worth, self-abandonment, self-sabotage. Usually we step into a mentor relationship with Hathor when we have been on a path of self-love, of a self-love practice long enough that we can allow Hathor's radiance to come forward and bring that warmth and that light into our awareness of just how blessed and divine we really are. If you are in a serious conflict with your divinity, Hathor isn't going to feel like a naturally magnetic guide for you at first. It's going to take time to warm up to her. Not because she isn't warm, she's incredibly warm. Her presence is like the sun. But that's how much light Hathor shines into every recess of your soul, every space and place within you that is, maybe you're hiding from. And so one of the places that we can get stagnant with our creativity is thinking there's only one solution. There's only one way that something can happen. And when you invite Hathor to bless your creativity and your communication, she opens up your mind to, 3 or more possibilities, sometimes 100 possibilities. Like the more you open up to her mentorship, she can show you multiple future timelines based on one choice. And assist you with your inner sight to recognize that you do indeed live in a quantum reality where at any moment there are so many options of empowerment that are awaiting you. And so to loosen up the controlling mechanisms that are trying to keep us safe and to open up into the quantum field of creative flow, I want to read this passage from the Sophia Code with you so you can feel into where is the source of your connection with this creative flow. It is the multidimensional fabric of your own soul. I'm reading from page 105 in the Sophia Code. If you'd like to read along with me, I am going to start with the last paragraph on page 105. And this is the words of Hathor. This is the part of her chapter that's her revelations. And she says, in my lifetime as Hathor, I consciously experience this neurological biofeedback as ecstatic states of union with the light of my oversoul, reveling in both the harmonious and challenging circumstances that my physical reality provided as simulation. It was my deep curiosity about this biofeedback that led me to a daily meditation practice for exploring my soul's consciousness carried within the electrons of my body. Every time my awareness reached out through the vehicle of my body's electrons, I began to increasingly identify and experience more of my other selves in physical reality. With every additional incarnation that I met of myself, I experienced an expanding conscious intimacy with the unified field of my whole being. Therein, I discovered that transcendent states of bliss arose from the electroecstatic communion with all of myself in reality. As I tracked the breadth of this electroecstatic communion, it was revealed that all of my physical incarnations were intimately connected with one another's emotional, mental, and spiritual development. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I could literally speak for an entire day about these two paragraphs. But what I do want to say is, why would we choose these times, like such challenging times of growth, to incarnate in a human body? Like, why would you choose that? Well, Hathor's sharing here, she's saying that when she would go into meditation and connect with the consciousness of her soul, and she would travel in her awareness consciously, not just to every part of her body in that incarnation as Hathor, but every other physical form that she was incarnating into simultaneously, because all lifetimes happen simultaneously in quantum reality. She was reaching into the understanding that life, that being in a body, is one of the most creative acts of the universe. Like, everything that you're touching and tasting and smelling and experiencing and thinking and being present with, breathing, in every way that you move, like, this is your soul gathering information. This is your soul participating in this extraordinary miracle of life. And this is the opportunity to, within a body, to reach out and touch this miracle that's been given to us, and to have a dialogue with it, to give back to the gift of life, and to also feel the gift of life giving back to us for participating in life. There is a creativity that comes from your soul embodying different forms, that in and of itself is a divine offering. And not only is it an offering back to the glory of life, it's literal bliss for your soul to experience both the hardships and the successes, both the sadnesses and the bliss. Hathor was sharing that the more she dropped into her heart, body, heart, and mind, within her physical body through meditation, she discovered that it was through her body that her soul was having an ecstatic experience of awakening. And what happened out of that realization that both the challenges and the successes and the joy and the happiness of being alive, what happened out of Hathor's ability to understand it was all the same biofeedback for her soul? It was all an incredible amount of information, wisdom, and learning experience for her soul. So then what happened from that place? She went on to lead a worldwide movement. She went on to, Sophia found a little Q-tip on the ground. It's one of her favorite toys. Hathor went on to lead a mystery school movement that covered half the planet. And she went on to ascend. I mean, when we normalize that everything about the human experience is a spiritual experience, that everything about our human experience is an opportunity to experience creative consciousness, everything about our human experience is actually designed to teach us how unlimited we are, not limited. When she came into a self-realization of her soul's creativity and motion, Hathor exponentially expanded in her spiritual leadership and had a massive impact both on her direct community, but then communities all over the world. So I have several questions that the Sophia Dragon Tribe invited me to share with each of you today. And I'm going to just take a moment for us to tune into the presence of Hathor before I ask you these questions. And if you'd like to grab a pen and paper, I'm in my writing room, so I've got my journal here. And if you want to actually write these questions down and journal about them, and then share in the chat or in the comment feed for the replay, feel free to share your thoughts and reflections as we do this exercise together. So, calling in the presence of Hathor and the Hathor Star Nation, our beloved ancient guides, in all of their golden radiance, their angelic light. You may feel Hathor coming, stepping forward, her presence ahead of you and also behind you, to your right and your left. She is so multidimensional that she is lifting your heart, body, and mind up within this container of sacred space that her presence is offering you to feel how embraced you are, but also sovereign in that embrace, to feel your own soul connecting with Hathor's soul, having this conversation in empowerment, creativity, sovereignty. And communication. The first question that Hathor has for you today is, what would it feel like if you believe that the source or God, spirit, whatever you call that consciousness that created your soul, divine mother, divine father, what would it feel like today for you to believe that this consciousness is bigger than any war on this planet? To be reminded that there is a divine consciousness within you that has created this entire cosmos. And this consciousness is far greater than any war on a planet or any war within us, because that's what all externalized wars are representative of. What would it feel like to step into the compassionate witness with Hathor and Kuan Yin? Hathor and Kuan Yin make an incredible duo, which you can learn about in the Stargate 1 curriculum. What would it feel like to step back and get a more interstellar perspective on the wars here on planet Earth and the rising and falling of these wars and humanity's addiction to war for its personal development? What would it feel like to feel the presence of your higher self's compassion and prayers, blessing this world, while simultaneously unplugging from the need of having global wars to stimulate our personal growth and development, and yes, even our journey of enlightenment? When humanity refuses to do the inner work, it externalizes the wars that it feels within itself onto a global stage, a theater of externalized wars, because this uncomfortability, this kind of pressurized global circumstances stimulates a heightened awareness that prayer is important, meditation is important, a spiritual practice is important to feel safe and centered, because there is an outside stimulus making people feel uncomfortable enough to go within. What if you were one of those light workers on the very leading edge of consciousness on this planet, co-creating with the ascended masters that war is no longer needed to inspire your spiritual practice? War is no longer needed to inspire your journey to go within and discover the sovereign divine light within you. War is no longer needed to stimulate your ability to reach within to that creative Holy Spirit light within you. The accessing that creativity through divine love, accessing that creativity, being willing to face your own fears about your creative spirit without needing outside trauma or wounding or global events to stimulate that search within. What if your own journey of love, curiosity, innocence was enough to get you really excited about going within on your journey? Feeling into these questions that the radiant presence of Hathor is supporting you to just open up your mind, step within her guiding light, and feel the radiant expansion of your thoughts about what is unfolding in this matrix just soften so that you can surrender into a more omniscient, compassionate witness perspective, and to feel the empowerment from that place that as you choose to explore your sovereignty, as you choose to embrace your creativity, you are unplugging from the fear, the anxiety, the terror, and the fright that these current externalized events are keeping so many people hostage to that fear. The next question is, given these circumstances, which are, yes, indeed, stimulating so many people to finally ask, what is my divine purpose? How do I get involved? What do I need to show up to? I need to listen to my heart. I need to figure out what is mine to do. And it's going to look completely unique to you than it is to anyone else. So the question is, how are you ready to lead in your own way? What are those steps that you're willing to take this year to co-create a spiritual awakening for humanity? And again, I always share leadership is creative service. Your service can happen in any area of life. It's how we're showing up to serve others through our gifts, our passions, our talents, our interests. And maybe it's not even a passion or interest. Maybe it's just a pure calling that scares the crap out of you because it's something that's so different and seems so unlike what you would do, but you're willing to follow the thread of curiosity to explore. Why do you feel called to participating in a particular cause or an interest, a field of interest that is unusual for you? Are you willing to loosen your grip and allow your inner child to come forward, allow that creative genius that's connected to the Phoenix child within you to guide you in your exploration of your divine purpose? So I love that question. How are you ready to lead in your own way? In your own way? What are those next steps? Hathor is also, in her perspective, she's asking us to consider what defines a generation. We have an opportunity as a generation of light workers to really bring the golden age of miracles forward that the Sophia Code shares about in section 1 of the Sophia Code. And a golden age is birthed for all sorts of reasons and for all sorts of collective arcs of evolution. And the Sophia Dragon Tribe and Hathor in particular, who was a total miracle maker in her time on Earth, it's like there's an invitation here to consider, if you were a part of a collective that had an opportunity to define an error on this planet, and that definition would be that we came here to be miracle makers. What is the miracle that we are embodying for humanity that's defining our generation? I personally believe it's the miracle of moving from slavery consciousness, slave matrix consciousness, to the sovereignty of heaven on earth consciousness, into Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness. Do we want to be enslaved by the terror and the fears? And yes, the actual old paradigm slavery system of this current matrix that is fighting desperately to hold its grasp over our consciousness? Or do we want to be willing as a generation, brave enough as a collective of earth angels and light workers to step into our sovereignty? To move to, even when it's uncomfortable for other people to witness us step into our sovereignty, are we willing to be brave enough to lead in our own way and co-create that sovereign paradigm together, just as Hathor and the Hathor Star Nation co-created in their time together on Earth? Finally, when we talk about creativity, in relationship to spiritual leadership, which is an extremely important subject for us as a community this year, in the year of the dragons, Hathor is reminding us that we are here to lead and to serve those who want to be served, those who want to receive your gifts and your insights and your passions, and whatever your offerings are. It's like Hathor was so filled with joy and so filled with such a somatic, blissful understanding of where the depths of where her soul was guiding her to understand about herself and the limitless potential of humanity, that her joy, her radiance was the invitation to her offering. And she didn't go around expecting people to believe what she believed. People were magnetized and attracted to the creative genius power that was constantly pouring through her. It was like there was never a moment where Hathor looked at a situation and said, oh, it can't be done. She was always inviting people to consider, how can this be done? How can we walk right into the obstacles and literally transform the obstacles with the radiance of our sovereign light? How does our divine light not only remove the obstacles, but create something beautiful out of the obstacle? How does our consciousness experience the joy of both the challenges and the successes, co-creating a completely new paradigm that we've never even seen before? That level of co-creative growth and evolution and genius creativity, it happens between people that are just happy to be around each other. So it's important to understand that even if you are working in really intense fields of social services with individuals that are recovering from extreme trauma, your work is here for those who want the work, and your soul knows. It can feel intuitively, even if somebody says they don't want the work, but they are behaving other than what they're saying and they're actually showing up to receive it, that's still a yes. Your divine feminine psychic awareness can intuitively feel, right? Because we're going to talk a lot about that in our sovereign leadership events, both in Austin and Sedona this year. Your intuitive somatic knowing through your body's leadership, you can tell when somebody is really ready to be a part of the prayer that of your service, or to receive the gifts that you're offering, or if they really don't want anything to do with it. And Hathor is inviting you to consider, what would it feel like to let go of the codependencies of thinking you have to convince anyone or force anything about your ministry or your leadership or your divine purpose? And what would it feel like to move into a space where your ministry and your service is gratefully received by those who have been wanting to receive it for so long? What would it feel like to co-create with others, to serve others that say to you things like, oh my God, I'm so happy to find your work. It's so lovely to meet you. I feel like I've been waiting to meet you my whole life. This is so exciting that I finally get to do this kind of inner work. I don't think I would have been ready to do it until I met you. It's like, that's the kind of joyful co-creative energy that we're welcoming in as a generation of light workers that are no longer willing to sacrifice and suffer for for our shared ministry, for our angelic mission. We've already sacrificed and suffered countless lifetimes to bring the light to this planet. What does it look like to co-create success through the joy, the bliss of the human experience? What does it mean to alchemize the challenges of our outer experiences and say, oh, wow, thank you for inspiring me inwards to a greater evolutionary arc where I learn about divine love through divine love, where I learn about creative genius through creative genius and not through the oppression of my creativity. So I hope these questions were helpful and inspiring for you. I look forward to reading your reflections about your mentor relationship with Hathor and perhaps exploring the Hathor chapter in the Sophia Code, feeling into that limitless reach of your divine soul. And I'd love to hear more about the creative breakthroughs you're having in your creative thinking, in your communication, perhaps with your divine purpose. And I'm really excited to share that we're going to do a massive giveaway tomorrow here on the KR Daily Transmission on YouTube Live. You have to be live to qualify to be a part of the giveaway. So I hope we can all be together, and I look forward to sharing more about that exciting news with you tomorrow. So thanks for joining me today on this next session about Hathor's creativity teachings. And please just know that I love you so much, and each of you are in my prayers, in our team's prayers, and we just consider it such an honor and a privilege to be here with you and serving the light of your soul. If you'd like to learn more about what we're offering with our Sovereign Soul events, I'll be live this May in Austin, Texas for our Sovereign Spiritual Leadership Training Immersive. We're also going to be offering this incredible affiliate training program for our Sophia Circle leaders. Some amazing outdoor fire ceremonies where you're going to really step into that dragon fire of your divine purpose and your soul's creative light. So I look forward to sharing more about that with you tomorrow, and we're going to have an incredible giveaway. So have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are in the world. And remember that your creative fire is making such an impact in the world. So thank you. Love you. See you tomorrow.